All right. Well, let's get started, shall we? Shaz, great to see you today. Thrilled to be on this webinar with you. Thank you so much for carving time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Happy to do so, Dave. Dialing in here from Toronto, Canada.
Fantastic. I love Toronto. It's an amazing town, an incredible melting pot for so many different cultures, great food, great sports, great people. And you're there at the right time of year, that's for sure. Well, let's get started. We are so excited to have everybody here with us today. With me, my name is Dave Norton. I am the president of Vroozi, and I'm thrilled to have with me our founder and CEO, Mr. Shaz Khan. He's coming to us live from Toronto, Canada, and he is based out of Los Angeles, California, which is the headquarters of Vroozi. We are thrilled to be able to welcome each of you who are participating remotely and want you to know that we will be recording this webinar. There's going to be tremendous insights shared, and so we'll be sharing this recording with each of you. We invite you to jot down some thoughts and questions. At the conclusion of our conversation, we will open it up for questions and answers. Our goal is to have this completed within a half an hour. So if we can do this between 25 and 30 minutes, that should be the timetable for your planning. So today's topic is regarding accounts payable, and your AP process is slower than it should be. So we're going to talk about the dynamics as it relates to your AP process and what might be causing it to be slower than it should be, and what you can do to accelerate that process. As we go through this slide, and as we cover today's agenda, there's going to be more dialogue than it is presentation, but it's also nice to have a presentation where you can see not just Shaz and myself and our smiling faces, but some great material here to hopefully help educate you and give you some insights as to how you can empower your business. So the first thing is what we want to do is give you a little bit of a background of Vroozi, what our mission is, and how we are accelerating the processes, not just in accounts payable, but all things supply chain management, procurement, and many others through artificial intelligence and how that can impact your business. We've got our presentation and conversation that we're going to talk about, and then, of course, the Q&A that we've mentioned. Now, some of you may have heard of Vroozi, some of you have not, and so let us just give you a very quick overview as to what we do. It is our mission to digitize processes that will enable an intelligent business marketplace. So when you think of everything from a source to pay, procure to pay, P2P, these different terminologies that are buzzwords, at the end of the day, it's really spend tech. And Vroozi, that is a term that we own, and we are the spend tech management firm that we are your partners, handling and assisting you in all things from purchasing, invoicing, putting all your suppliers in one digital marketplace, all the way through payment. As I mentioned, we're headquartered in Los Angeles. We're in over 18 countries today, and we currently provide services to Fortune 100, Fortune 500, and Fortune 1000 clients. Now, as I mentioned earlier about our digital marketplace, this allows you and your customers, you and your suppliers to be able to search and order from all of your authorized suppliers that you've contracted with from an e-commerce interface, very much like an Amazon today. It's a plug and play integration. So out of the box, you can plug into almost every one of your ERP systems that are out there, ranging from SAP to Oracle and onward. As I mentioned about our global reach in 18 countries, 10 languages and counting, we truly offer a global solution. As it relates to our analytics, we currently today out of the box have 40 standard intelligent reports for you, and we also do customized reporting as well. But we are so excited to talk to you more today and onward about how artificial intelligence can assist you specifically with Vroozi and in your different workflows. You might wonder, well, who are some of those suppliers today? You can see at the top of the screen, McKesson, Grainger, Cintas, B&H, etc. And we have so many more that you and many of our customers utilize today. As you think about the digitization of purchasing, your workflows, electronic connections, smart finance coding. We will stand up with you and partner and digitize that entire process for you, as will we with the marketplace, invoicing, and analytics. We are a no-code platform. We are one single pane of glass. So we haven't Frankensteined and bolted things together. This is one code. This is one pane of glass, one login, and this is a true state-of-the-art, industry-leading P2P system. Going on here, this is just a quick NASCAR slide, our brag sheet of all of the different wonderful customers of whom we work with today, and we are so grateful for. Customers are our North Star. We are obsessed with helping our customers succeed, and here's just a quick snapshot of just some of them. So let's dive into today's current state and what AP processing looks like. So Shaz, as you think about the many teams that you work with across the globe, when you think about the manual processes, the Excel spreadsheets, the multiple logins, the different log jams that are occurring, tell us, if you would, when you think about a typical invoice processing flow, what you're seeing today.
Well, thank you, Dave. And I think that picture says a lot in terms of what we saw or what we continue to see in terms of current state. You'll often see individuals in AP departments with a number of different monitors with different data points and transactions and systems up on the screen. And what they are really doing is transposing data from one screen to the next screen. Now, you would think that that is a automated and digital play, but that is really just taking data from one screen and typing it in manually into another screen. And typically that's what we see in an invoice processing flow. If you look at this diagram here, you're going to receive a number of different documents in different formats, both unstructured and structured. And we'll go into a little bit more nuances on what unstructured data is. This could be paper. This could be JPEG images of invoices that we need to digitize into a structured format that can be easily legible and readable by some type of coding algorithm. And unfortunately, majority of the data that comes into an organization today is what we classify as unstructured. In fact, there was a recent survey by Deloitte that suggested that an organization's data, up to 80% of that data is unstructured, meaning that you only have 20% that you can really digitize. So the focus should be, how do we digitize, take that unstructured data to structured? Then you have the data entry. Now, again, in the advent of today's market and today's AP department, we are still seeing a tremendous amount of manual data entry from an invoice document into a billing or invoice management system. Couple that with basic OCR, which what we classify as limited data capture. One of the major themes that and things that we want to emphasize is data capture is not equivalent to invoice processing lifecycle. Data capture is simply just the means of taking data off of a document, structured into a structured, unstructured into a structured document, and then populating that data into respective fields. That is only one component of the equation of a complete invoice processing lifecycle. Then, of course, you have the validation. How many times do we see in AP departments, they're getting an invoice with the PO number and they can't intelligently match that invoice coming in with the PO number, which could result in many different catastrophes within organizations: overpayments, blocked invoices, manual checking of duplicates by using reports in different systems. And so, in essence, you have this human-led validation activity in which they are going into multiple data repositories to reconcile the data that they're seeing on the screen. Finally, the approval mechanism, you're doing a lot of forwarding. You're creating reports manually with invoice collection sets so that you can send it to individuals to approve, and then moving on to a payment cycle. Now, again, this is not indicative of every single department, but overwhelming majority of accounts payable departments are still seeing this type of activity across their global centers, whether you're in a centralized AP department or a decentralized AP department.
Excellent. Thank you, Shaz. And for those who have joined late, just want to let you know that with me is Mr. Shaz Khan. He is the founder and CEO of Vroozi, based out of Los Angeles, California. And my name is Dave Norton. I'm the president of Vroozi. And one of the many reasons I love working with Shaz, and why I'm inspired by Shaz is his nearly 3 decades of experience in this space. He has seen the pain and the transformation that has occurred over these last 3 decades, from a consultant owning a consulting firm to now being a founder and really leading and being a thought leader, developing the most innovative solutions to address these pain points. What's fascinating to me, Shaz, is the traffic jams that still exist today in 2025. When you think about all the possibilities of what should or could be automated, or what should or could be eliminated, talk through us or talk to us, if you could, about these typical traffic jams that we're going to be able to overcome here quickly in the next couple of slides.
Well, if there's one slide that kind of sums up the purpose and theme of this webinar, it's this slide. And these are the areas that we really want to focus on in terms of allowing organizations to really think, is this what I'm seeing within my own accounts payable department today? Do I have one or multiple of these issues happening? So the first area is poor data management, manual data capture, limited OCR, incorrect data entry, missing information, no data audits. Poor data management, lack of governance, lack of data quality, and standardization can lead to errors. Errors that can lead to massive mistakes that take companies time to recover. When you overpay, yes, you could be in a situation where you get that money back, but that's cash out the door. That's cycle time, and that is a lot of work that needs to be done to reconcile mistakes, right? So we want to reduce that. Limited or no matching capabilities. There's so many organizations still that are taking invoice data and doing manual matching to purchase orders with very low first pass match rates. If you're ordering a set of IT equipment and there's a quantity of 10 and you're getting an invoice for 5, meaning a partial shipment, that means that you have to go and manually go now and reconcile that I'm getting a partial invoice for that PO, and I need to make sure that I'm paying those PO prices and terms. No invoicing connectivity with suppliers. This is a major, major element. Suppliers are actually moving very fast. Your managed spend suppliers, the ones that make up 80% of your spend, chances are they are very technically sophisticated, right? They're not going to want to send you invoices in a paper or a PDF format to a digital inbox. They're going to want to engage in a complete electronic transaction. Inefficient approval workflows, complex approvals, multi-step approvals. We've seen approval mechanisms for invoices up to 10 individuals. Approval lags, manual routing criteria with no reminders. When you have 10 people in an approval cycle, regardless if it's upstream in the actual purchasing or requisitioning of goods and services, or whether it's looking and reviewing at invoice data that is coming into my inbox, of course your cycle time is going to increase when you have multiple people looking at an invoice for a payment. What does that lead to? That leads to no-nos, where your days payable outstanding goes up, not down. And DPO is a very big metric that companies should be looking at as it relates to their invoice automation and how they can improve speed. And then finally, no automation for exceptions. There are a lot of invoices that will come in. Those invoices could be erroneous. They could be fraudulent. They could be mistaken in terms of the data that's put onto those invoices. Now, most companies will have a parked or an exception queue where they can have individuals then review those. But there's no automation against that exception cycle. How do we send that invoice to the right person at the right time and then focus on that release for payment? So these are just some of the areas that we see as an organization within AP departments that are causing what we call the invoice traffic or logjam.
Thank you, Shaz. You talked about DPOs and you talked about that metric. That's a really important metric to indicate the success of a finance and accounts payable team specifically. Talk to us about what we're seeing here as it relates to slowing this process, days, dollars, percentages.
Well, this is quite startling. And again, it's information that again companies should be able to use to benchmark. Where do I stand as it relates to the AP process cycle? You could be best in class right now and seeing these numbers actually decrease, and your focus should be on lower amount on these data points, not higher. So when you talk about the results of a slow AP process, you're going to see increased cycle times. The average time to process an invoice, and again, I will argue, average time is from invoice receipt to ready to pay status is almost 11 days. Okay, that
Mm.
is an Ardent Partners metric that was shared with us in 2023. That has gone down actually slightly recently to about 10.2. But you're still looking at over double-digit days for a cycle time of a process that could be a few days. Cost per invoice increasing. This is always a joke in the market. A $12 invoice will cost more to process than the actual value of the document
Mm.
that you're so how do you actually speed up the invoice processing such that you do not have to actually have a tremendous cost burden on your CPI? And again, these are things that a lot of companies actually don't take the time to measure. How long is it taking my accounts payable team to put in an invoice? What is the cost associated to that individual and group of people that will touch that invoice across the cycle? And what you will find is numbers that can actually range anywhere from $15 to $100, okay, per invoice, depending on the number of approval levels and skips. And then finally, errors in invoice entry and payment. This is incredible. 3.6% of invoices have an error based on manual entry or no data validation. That is absolutely a very troubling number. If you're seeing
What
that
adds to
type of,
that, Shaz? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what adds
please.
to that is what is the dollar amount on average applied to that 3.6% error? How many dollars are being impacted because of the amount of errors? I mean, it could be tremendous for each organization.
You could be looking at millions, millions non-payroll spend in terms of what you put out in terms of payables. Let's just say you're having $100 million of payables or even $50 million of payables, right? A 3.6 error rate can lead to millions of dollars of issues that need to be reconciled between you and your supply base. So it could be dramatic.
Wonderful. There's been a question that's come in from one of our participants. Will we be showing a demo of the product? We will not be showing a demo in today's conversation that we're going to be having. We're going to be wrapping up here in about 10 minutes. But one of the purposes is to be able to follow up with you and set up a demo. So we can absolutely do that. We will do that. So thank you for that question. In this particular meeting together today, there will not be a demo. But thank you for that request. All right, now let's talk about speeding up invoices. And Shaz, we got about 9 minutes left together with our audience. So let's dive into how we can help speed up and what our participants who are watching this can think about in areas that will allow them to speed up the invoicing process.
So when you look at an accounts payable invoice automation or APIA with embedded AI, what you are really talking about is 100% automation, orchestration, and digitization, where you can ingest invoices in any format, whether it's unstructured or structured data. You can extract that data, recognizing it in multiple different languages on the header and line item. You can validate with AI-based tool sets in terms of whether there's fraud, whether there's a duplicate. You can then involve humans to review exceptions by intelligently identifying the right people that need to react to that invoice or digitally collaborate with the supplier in which they can actually go through a dispute process in real time with the supplier through some type of digital connectivity. And then finally, approving and paying those invoices. Every one of these areas has an ability to be digitized and automated. And when you talk about a complete invoice processing cycle, this is what best in class can look like for organizations where they're leveraging AI and AI agents for purpose. Now, oftentimes we see a lot of these buzzwords, agentic AI, agent AI, assisted AI. Well, agentic AI, let's just take this process. Agentic AI is truly autonomous. An example of agentic AI in today's market are the self-driving cars like Waymo, which can course correct and adjust in real time based on the conditions on the road. Fully autonomous based on inputs that individual or mechanism or mechanical object is receiving, right? But with agents, you still have to have some level of human interaction. Our responsibility as an organization is to provide the right messaging and prompt and pushing of data to the right individuals such that it's minimal clicks. So we are not proposing a autonomous, fully autonomous agentic AI process because what organization will look at that and say, I'm going to automate my entire invoices without any human involvement? The answer is zero. No organization will take that bet. Okay. However, if you can reduce the data entry, you can identify frauds, you can identify exceptions in real time, and validate duplicates and involve humans at the right time, you will see tremendous productivity boosts. In our case, up to 75% in cycle time improvements and also reduction in invoice processing costs.
That's amazing, up to 75%. Well, in today's world, especially with AI and the impact it's making for so many businesses, we are so excited to be able to share that with our customers and encourage our customers to really find ways in which AI can impact their business and finding partners like Vroozi who can assist them in that. So quickly, let's go through a couple of these tips, Shaz. We may not have time for all five, but what do you think are a few of the most important tips in digitizing the invoice processing?
Sure, I'll just highlight a few. Then we'll start with number one, which is extracting data with AI. I will say that the data extraction is one of the most important components of a cohesive invoice processing strategy. The problem with it just extracting data is that most companies do not actually do the full data capture. I would call it semi-OCR capabilities. In other words, if I'm seeing a 300 line item invoice coming in, most of these systems today, they're just capturing the header, the total amount, and then the categorization of one line item, and then rolling it all up into the invoice document electronically. That is not digital. If you want to provide complete financial visibility of what you are spending money on in an organization, you need to be able to capture every piece of data, the digital DNA of that invoice, populate in the screen with limited human intervention so that you can have the right assignment and visibility of your financials. And so why not take 300 line items on an invoice and populate all of that with the right account coding proposal based on your chart of accounts? People think that it's very difficult. With the advent of AI and really good cognitive OCR capabilities, that ability is available now for companies to take advantage of. And then the other item I would just focus on is leveraging data for predictability. How do we reduce errors, okay, in an organization? How do we identify potential fraud? Again, this is where AI can be an absolute game changer in identifying duplicates, identifying trends in terms of how suppliers are sending invoices. Are they consistently sending the same invoice over and over again at the same amount with different numbers? And how do you then actually leverage that data to speed up your cycle time for document processing?
Fantastic. Thank you. You talked about the cognitive OCR data extraction, the digital DNA. Any other comment you want to make on that before we move on?
Well, what you're seeing here is just a real example of what our system is doing. We're extracting the entire data from the invoice in up to 60 different languages. And again, having done this for so many years, we would be lucky to get that line item detail and truly read the words, whether it's handwritten words, whether it's structured data, whether it's quantity ordered on the invoice column, all of those things matter. Cognitive OCR it means exactly that. It's understanding the words on the page and applying it to the actual transaction with confidence scores. That's a game changer for a lot of companies. Why do I need to type in all the data when I can digitally extract it? That can save me from 15 minutes of data entry processing down to 30 seconds with
Amazing.
complete data. Okay.
Fantastic. Let's talk about AI and empowering the automation from an STP, straight through processing.
This is a metric that we highly encourage companies to measure. How do you improve your straight through processing, what we call the touchless processing portion of your business? And you do that by, again, embedding really good technology that can understand the data, understand what you're spending money on, and then also intelligently routing so that you do not have invoices in a stuck or parked queue. Automate invoice exception handling with resolutions leveraging AI. Provide the recommendations based on the data that the AI engine has seen before to determine what course of action they should take. For example, if you have an invoice that's coming in with a price higher than what's on the PO, AI can help you predict and actually recommend, should you pay the PO price or should you pay the invoice price based on a variety of factors that the engine has seen before or with outside market data.
Wonderful. Let's move forward to the results. When you think about implementing a solution or implementing this automation, implementing AI, you've gone through this. What type of results have you seen recently compared to what you've seen through the last 3 decades?
Well, this is just phenomenal. You're seeing these numbers actually play out right now in the modern AP department. Drastically reduced cycle times from that average of 10 to 11 days down to 3.5 days. Your cost per invoice decreasing from 15 to $2.50 because the amount of human input required goes down tremendously. You are paying individuals today to process invoices, whether it's a business processes outsourcing group in a different market or within a local market. You are still paying individuals to do that data, and most of that data is still manually processed. How can you bring that and automate it and leverage AI to bring that invoice price down? And then finally, reduction errors. We're seeing less than 1%. Right? As the system sees the invoices coming through more and more, you have a neural network that continues to learn, continues to identify areas for optimization.
Amazing compared to the 3.6 you talked about in a few slides earlier. When you think about the old ways versus today's new ways, I love this layout of information here as you see how invoicing all the way from ingestion through to posting and payment, what used to be and what now can be. Any comment you have on this slide?
Well, this is the buggy Ferrari a moment, right? You got a horse-drawn buggy on the old way with paper, and now you're going to a Ferrari, right? F1 Formula race car, where you are able to take that data, ingest it, route it intelligently, code it intelligently, send exceptions to people that need to review and approve, and do it all within a digital construct. No paper required. You can send notifications via mobile devices. You can have reports pushed. You can have information pushed to individuals with corrective course actions. All of this is possible now. And it's becoming better. not worse. These tools are advancing. And so, why not take advantage of that to truly transform the AP department of today from data processing to more strategic treasury, cash management, supplier relationships, and really building upon that? I think that in the next 3 years, we will see a revolution happening within accounts payable where we move from that data processing to more strategic supplier relationships, innovation, and you're going to see the workforce change as a result of that.
Certainly. Now, for our guests who are joining us today, they may say, okay, Shaz, you've inspired us. We need to make a change, or we need to tweak this into our process or into our program. Where should they start? How do we address certain points? Where would you advise them as you've done now, again, as I've mentioned, for so many years? How would you start if you're one of our guests who are joining us today?
Well, there's no substitute for rolling up the sleeves and really getting in and digging in. First, identify the challenges within your organization. Truly understand your supply chain, the people that you do business with, that you pay. Are there opportunities for digitization, electronic invoices? Do you have lags within your approval cycle? Are there exceptions that are just continuing to pile up, which become a treasury cash management nightmare? And really dig into that. It doesn't take a lot, but it does take work. It takes a committee approach to truly identify your current state, even getting to the point of identifying your current benchmarks on the numbers that we just shared. What are your exception rates? What are your cost per invoicing rates? What are the percentage of suppliers that I'm doing business with that can be considered electronic? Those are things that you have to take time and analyze, and you can do so with the help of other organizations such as us or other firms. But that step has to be taken. If you want to transform, you have to understand where you are today.
Wonderful. Well, as a wrap up, let's talk through the key takeaways that you've shared. We sure appreciate your experience, your expertise, your insights, and your thought leadership. What are some of the key takeaways on this list that you want to call out before we wrap up?
Well, let's go bookend on this one. So I will start with the first bullet point. Intelligent data capture, or what we know as optical character recognition or OCR, is just one component of a complete digital invoice processing strategy. If you are just doing IDC or OCR, that is not digital. That's not automation. A complete holistic invoice processing lifecycle has intelligent data capture as one major component. But you also have to tie it together with smart approvals, smart account assignment, smart exception handling, smart routing for payments. And those are the things that make up a holistic strategy. And then finally, on the bottom, a leaner and stronger workforce driven by code and intelligence, not meetings and research. This is very critical. The next generation of the workforce is not going to be inundated with meetings and research and reconciliation. They're going to be driven based on code and intelligence embedded in platforms that are going to provide really, really incredible validations and confidence scores to the user in what corrective course of action to take, removing friction from that AP department process today that is still very much real within companies throughout the world.
Well, Shaz, you've created for many, many years, many raving fans, and we can't thank you enough for, again, carving out time today to share with us the most important insights for accelerating our AP processes and systems. And we thank you on behalf of everyone here at Vroozi, those in the marketplace who are searching for a partner like Vroozi. And here we see on the screen a few members of our tribe of raving fans and the impact that Vroozi has made to them. Any closing comments, Shaz, that you'd like to make as we wrap up today?
Oh, thanks a lot, Dave. This was fun. Great opportunities for companies today. There's such great tools. Start the work today. It will pay off, and it can pay off quicker than you can imagine.
Well, Shaz, we have just two questions, if that's okay, that have come in that I'd like to share on their behalf. Do you have just a few more moments so we could share these?
Please.
Okay, perfect. Um, The one individual says, you've mentioned that AP automation solutions still have major gaps. What would you say, Shaz, is the most commonly overlooked gap that causes the biggest pain point for finance teams and account payable teams?
Well, I would say that there's a few. I think number one is that intelligent data capture is not complete. So when you're looking at really trying to get the entire digital DNA of an invoice in terms of line items so that your finance teams can see a very complete picture of what's being bought, it doesn't help corporate finance when you're getting a 300 line item invoice and consolidating into one line item. How do I know what I'm actually buying? This happens all over the place. I've seen it countless number of times where we say we're digital, but you're not capturing that data. The second area that I would kind of focus on is how do I get information to the right people digitally by understanding based on rule sets that are established within the invoice. How do I extract that data from the invoice to see, well, this is the for this department, this invoice, and this individual is responsible for seeing these invoices. So it's more of a dynamic, just-in-time, real workflow to showcase where your approvals need to go, as opposed to building these complex rule sets in app. Those are areas that I think are continuously being built, where AI agents can be incredibly powerful and game changers, as opposed to building these complex rule sets and within applications.
Terrific. Now, one final question here, and it has to do with AI. There's been a lot of comments made today surrounding AI, and the question is, can you give an example of how AI specifically improves AP workflows? Is there a real world impact or real world case where you've seen um, AI changing business?
Yeah, I'll tell you what we did and what we used to do. There are a tremendous amount of invoices that come in that are what we classify as non-PO invoices that did not have a corresponding PO. In fact, some companies that we work with, 70% of their incoming invoices are non-PO. Well, what happens with the non-PO is that you still have to actually digitally or manually code that invoice according to the right cost object, whether it's this cost center, this GL account. Well, how about I actually do something better for you? How about I take that invoice that's a utility bill, identify a utility bill, identify the make of that the charge, and I intelligently propose the coding with the confidence score so that you don't have to guess what that account assignment is. That's a game changer. That speeds up the workflow, removes so many different individuals from the game where you have to invite corporate controllers and accountants to actually properly code the invoices. You can use great machine learning algorithms embedded within platforms like Vroozi to do that heavy lifting, propose, and guess what? If there's a correction needed, the second time that invoice comes in, that confidence score just goes up because the correction is back, it goes into the loop, and it gets better. Those are areas where we see approval workflows just going through the roof in terms of cycle time based on those little tiny things that can just drive efficiencies and productivity.
I love it. Well, I think we have a potential topic for our next webinar. What can AI do for you? All right. Well, Shaz, thank you again on behalf of everyone who has participated and all those who will still be watching the recording of this. Again, thank you for the questions from the audience and participants today. We certainly value your participation and your input. And we also appreciate those who are interested in seeing a demonstration of the platform Vroozi and what it can do for you in your organization. Well, on behalf of Shaz Khan, Team Vroozi, this is Dave Norton thanking you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on our webinar hosted by Vroozi. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.